So Burning Rain has a new record called Face the Music coming out on March 22nd. I guess, are you happy with how everything went and turned out here on the record? And how do you describe the direction here?
Yeah, I'm really happy. I'm really happy about the record. It's a much more sort of straightforward record for Doug Aldridge and myself. When we put this together, we really kind of left a lot of the arrangements right in their original form, that they just kind of popped out as we were demoing the songs. And I think because of that, we've got a much more raw and rockin' record. And not to take anything away from the past 3 previous Burning Rain records, but yeah, I'd say just in comparison, this one, you know, it's a little more straightforward. Is best way I can describe it. Came out great. My first experience working with producer Alessandro Del Vecchio over there in Italy, working with Frontiers, and he did a great job helping us put this together and mixing and producing it, albeit from a long distance, you know, sending stuff back and forth over you know, big files over Dropbox and whatnot. But we got it all done. We learned how to make a rock and roll record kind of in the cyber world, and that was a great experience too.
I'm curious, what are your emotions like kind of just before you release a new record?
You know, me personally, I kind of don't. You know, what do we hear? We call ourselves the Western world. In Western astrology, I'm an Aries, and a lot of my planets and what rules my mind and my heart and my spirit and all my workplace, it's all in fire. So what that means, and I think it is in sync with the way I am, that means I live in the moment most of the time, and I don't really get all crazy until I actually get there. But everything so far has felt really good, and I expect that based on the preliminary words that I'm getting from all kinds of people who have been into Burning Rain over the years, is that they're loving the record. They're really excited. It is kind of a fresh sound from what we had before, and people are really responding well. So I'm, you know, my friends ask me the same thing. You excited? I go, well, that's just not my thing. I will be excited when I hear it.
Gotcha.
You know, for the first time coming over the airwaves. But, you know, I kind of live in the moment, and there's other exciting things happening today that are happening that are turning me this way and that way and pushing my buttons. So, yeah, I mean, emotionally, I'm just a pretty even-keeled guy, but, you know, I will kick one up when I'm sure the day I hear it all coming out and hitting the airwaves.
You guys were recording from different studios and that type of thing?
Doug and I both have studios at our pads, you know, and we both work there. And sometimes we work separately, and sometimes we work together. It just depends on the tune, you know. Doug might have put together, you know, a full-on musical demo this year, or maybe it's from something we started 5 years ago or whatnot. And, you know, he'll just volley it at me and say, what do you think of this? And I'll say, that's really smoking, brother. Let me try throwing some vocals down. I'll send it back to you. Tell me what you think. And, you know, with today's technology, it's pretty easy to do that.
Yeah.
And I can hang in my comfort zone. He can hang in his comfort zone. And of course, when we get together and we're sitting in the same room, you know, there's something about that changes us as well. And, you know, sparking, you know, he'll have some riffs he might have been playing around with and just kind of throw them past me. And as soon as something sparks, we'll go, holy shit, dude, hit record. And, you know, kind of like that old organic thing. And we get it going. And, you know, over the years, you know, we're not 19 anymore. So, you know, we've learned to be pretty quick with, you know, drum machines and whatever we need to sort of let us hear in a preliminary environment like that, you know, sort of how the song's gonna sound with drums and bass on it real quick. And, you know, that whole sort of thing, you know, that's our kitchen. That's where we cook things.
With all the advancements in recording, do you still see the benefit of spending loads of money and going into a fully loaded, expensive studio to record when it seems like you can get a pretty damn decent sound just with a laptop and some decent software? You know, it's surprising what you can do.
You know, what I've learned for me, and it took me a long time to learn this, and I'm still learning it. I've learned that when you're in an environment that gives you a vibe,
yep.
And for everybody it's different. For me, my vibe is usually going to hit me the first time I hear a new piece of music roll across my ears. So my sort of go-to methodology is when someone wants to play me a song that they're interested in me writing something on, I usually want to be in a situation where there's tape rolling. Because as soon as I hear it, without even knowing the arrangement and what's coming next, I kind of want to sing with it.
Right.
And I've learned that for some reason, I don't know what the hell it is, man. It's an artistic or a spiritual or a left brain kind of thing. Whatever pops out then, when I'm in that mood and it's just flowing, you probably can't beat it.
Okay, so
it's probably not going to be beaten no matter what you do in the studio to try to come up with whatever you think of and whatever you craft on the right side of your brain. For some reason, when you go back and you listen to those two things later, you go, man, that first weird scat you did, it just has something to it. And so when you go record, I don't think it matters that much how expensive the gear is, how big the studio is, what the track record is, you know, who recorded what drums there. If that song is smoking because you had the right creative environment when you made it, nothing's going to stop it. And that's my thing, you know,
Gotcha.
Basically. So, you know, artists, even though you can be in technical mode all the time now because all these things are at your fingertips,
right.
Try to stay out of it. Try to stay out of it, man. Just let your art flow, man, because that's when it's the best.
So lyrically, do you come up with lyrics fairly fast then?
Yeah. And, you know, once again, I do it both ways.
Right.
I sit and I craft, and, you know, you've been doing this thing all your life. You know, if you're a singer, you've probably grew up being kind of a poet, kind of a wordsmith kind of guy or gal, and or something in between. And, you know, you've got everything. You've got your thesauruses, and you've got your rhyming dictionaries, and you got this, and you got that, and you've heard every idiomatic expression in every branch of the English language or whatever language you speak that you can possibly hear, and you got all these tools. But for some reason, when you just sort of barf shit out and let it come from the beyond, stuff comes out that's not in that bag of tools that you're carrying around. It's just this other stuff
right.
that seems to be the magic. So, you know, I guess that gives you a good picture of kind of the way KSJ likes to operate.
So,
right on, brother.
Yeah. When did you realize you wanted to be a professional musician? Did you fall into it, or did you know for a long time that that's what you were going to do?
Man, I still don't think I'm a professional musician. You know, I wake up, I do what I do, you know, the sun rises, and I'm kind of a more organized, harder working version of the Big Lebowski. You know, I'm there, and I'm like, dude, you know, the dude is not in.
Yeah.
So
you
know, do what you do, and yeah, I guess so. I guess I'm a New Yorker, but you know, who moved out to the West Coast.
Gotcha.
But yeah. So, but you come out to California, and you become, you know, over a certain number of years, you just kind of, your speed changes for sure. For me, you know, I came out to California and I felt like I was in the Matrix movie, and everyone else was kind of moving like 1 centimeter per minute. And I was just like this fly flittering around going, what are these people doing, man? They're just hanging out. And now, you know, I go back to New York.
Yeah.
And I'm still in the Matrix, except I'm the slow guy, and I'm like, I can't even see people. They're moving so fast. What's up?
Right.
So it's all perspective.
Yep, definitely. So who are your influences growing up?
Yeah, there's all kinds of things
Sure.
sneaking and creeping in there.
Yeah.
And you can't help but have influences.
Oh, absolutely.
But, you know, I look back and I go, man, you know, at that point, I was kind of thinking about that dude a little bit when I sang that song. And in some ways that's good. And in some ways you go, but I really like me, so I shouldn't do that. You know, just do my own thing at all times, la, la, la. But from the beginning, you know, I grew up in a pretty classic musical environment, you know, being on the East Coast and in New York around Broadway, you know, so I was hearing music by, you know, Andrew Lloyd Webber all the time and Gershwin and, you know, and all these great compositions. And as a kid, you know, I wasn't really a rocker kid, you know, I was a music kid though, you know, I was in my school band, played jazz band and classical music. So I grew up gravitating towards the romantic era of classical music, which is, you know, a lot of Russian dominated like Tchaikovsky and Shostakovich and those guys that have very dynamic, you know, like the 1812 overture that brings you all the way down, you know, with a solo,
right.
You know, clarinet, and then all of a sudden the timpani and everybody under the sun comes like crashing through and mowing down the mountains with this, you know, gigantic passage that just sends you over the edge. Yeah. So, you know, I also gravitated towards the dynamic bands. As you mentioned, Led Zeppelin, very dynamic. Jimmy Page bringing it all the way down, just a single acoustic, right. You know, and Plant's kind of whispering, you know, da 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 da, and then all of a sudden Bonzo comes in and they just go thud, bam, and punch you in the face, you know. And maybe people don't really make that connection and that crossover comparison to the, you know, the classical composers and stuff. But I mean, man, that's kind of what Page as an amazing producer did, is he, you know, he took, you know, traditional music and classical dynamics and all kinds of stuff, and he brought that into guitar in a way that just wasn't done before. So that kind of music, all kinds of traditional music, I love. I heard a lot of early folk music growing up. My parents, you know, they were baby boomers too, so right. You know, Dylan and shit, man, Peter, Paul, and Mary, and Hendrix and CSN and all that stuff, and all the early Beatles shit that, you know, the Blue and Red collection, those records, like the old Stones, like the Hot Rocks collection. And, you know, and then, you know, when I first started hearing hard rock, man, that was, bam, instant love affair. Although it started on the drums. Okay. You know, I was like, man, I just want to play some drums. And then I put my little combos together when I was in grade school, and I was always the guy who could sing the songs. Okay. So there I was, a drummer bashing it out and trying to also flub my way through the vocals on a mic behind the drums. And eventually, when I got older and got into bigger bands, eventually the guy said, dude, just, you know, stop the drum thing and start singing, dude. Just go out there and just do it. And I kind of found my groove, and that's how that happened. But, you know, the influences, the early rock stuff I got out there with was, you know, the stuff that was popular in the clubs on Long Island, which is where I was, which was Van Halen and Priest and some Sabbath and you know, a lot of shredders out there. People really loved, you know, the Ozzy stuff. So we did, you know, a lot of songs up that early Ozzy stuff, and you know, Zeppelin wasn't that in when I was first in the clubs. It was kind of out at that point. There weren't a lot of people listening to it.
That's true.
I put some of that stuff in our set because I loved it, you know, and it was actually pretty fresh at the time because everybody was doing metal. You know, it was metal was so big, you know, and the hair metal thing was really big. And but I loved that older stuff, and we'd throw some of it in the set. And you know, we had a lot of New Yorker diehards that would come out to the clubs and watch bands that I watched, and we'd pull that stuff off and try to do the live version of A Whole Lot of Love with the whole Boogie Mama thing in it, and the little boy has reached the age of 24 and all that stuff. So that's some of my stuff in a roundabout explanation.
Yeah, I gotcha. Oh, you've fronted a lot of bands that already had their own songs. You know, you were with Montrose for quite some time. You sang with George Lynch and Lynch Mob, and you just did Kingdom Come. Is it hard to come up with that, wanting to respect the song while keeping your own voice? I mean, that seems like it's a hard thing to do, Do you struggle with that?
You know what, I never really struggled too hard with that, because when the way that Montrose came about is, I got introduced to Ronnie by a guy he was just a cat that was really good friends with both of us, and he said, "Hey, you two guys got to meet and just hang out." And when we got together, there was no intentions except that Ronnie wanted to write some songs, and he had a whole bunch of new ideas, and we got together, and that's what we did. We kind of just got to know each other, and we were writing songs and just sort of hanging out. And, coming over my place, I'd go over his place, and we'd figure out creative ways to cook ribs, how to soak them and
Sure.
do stuff like that. Just kind of like buddy stuff.
Right.
And coming from the East Coast, I didn't really know the Montrose stuff. It wasn't in my rock and roll Bible growing up. I was a little young, and it was also more of a West Coast phenomenon, and then the first time he asked me to do the Montrose stuff was when he was approached by Scott Bourret, who's Steve Miller's manager forever, who was a big Montrose fan, said, "Hey, Ronnie, what do you think about getting a new Montrose band together and getting it out there?" And he said, "Yeah." And I was just there at the time, and he said, "Hey, Keith, I'd love it if you check these songs out. And this is my old band. Check these songs out, and maybe we can get together with some guys and jam and see how it feels. And if you want, we can go out and start playing some show dates on this stuff." So I tried it, and I just sang it the way I sang, and he liked it and said, "Man, it sounds great. Let's do it." And that was kind of it. And Ronnie never said, "Hey, sing this more like this," or try to sound more like Sam or whatever.
Sure.
For whatever reason, it resonated with his fans who liked his music. Whatever the tone of my voice was or whatever, just kind of just worked.
Right.
And what I learned with some of the other bands I tried to get together with is, if it doesn't just work by being myself,
yeah,
and it becomes this chore of, well, you've got to sort of sound like a caricature of the other guy who was in the band, then it wasn't really for me.
Right.
There's something in my voice and certain blues inflections that I like, that I gravitate towards, that I learned when I was kind of coming up and singing, learn off of old Glenn Hughes records and Sam Cooke and old Paul Rogers from Free and these kind of singers and all this stuff that I learned that was right in line with, Oni Logan's inflections on the first Lynch Mob record.
Sure. Yeah.
So that stuff felt like it was really right in my wheelhouse. I picked right up on that and got into it. No problem. Same thing. The Kingdom Come stuff. Guys approached me to do that band, and I was like, okay, I believe I could just kind of be myself.
Right.
And I just, Lenny Wolf sounds like we had some similar influences too. And obviously, they got tagged with, being big Zeppelin fans back then. So it kind of fit in real easy. It was like, yeah, man, I already kind of sing this stuff, and I love this stuff. So this should be real easy. And it is. Learning that stuff was just kind of like I said, right in my wheelhouse. And I've been asked by a lot of other projects at a lot of times and bands to come along and, hey man, would you be into doing this and singing with this band for a while? And a lot of times I just have to pass it by, because it's like, I know that it's just going to be a chore that feels fake to the audience, and it's going to feel a little fake to me. So I've kind of had to pick and choose over the years if I'm going to do that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you, if I had, sometimes I think in my mind, I feel like more of a creative guy and a writer kind of guy. So I look back and I say, well, I did go out and spend a lot of time touring and supporting some of these other great artists and great bands and their fans and stuff. And I enjoyed every minute of the touring scene and everything, but maybe, I could have just stayed more on the creative end and kept focusing on my own stuff. But I'll tell you, man, I'm kind of a hippie. I kind of roll with the sun and the moon, and stuff shows up at the doorstep, and it's packaged. You know, it's got a little bow on it, and I say, that looks good. Let's go do this.
Very good.
So, no regrets, and
cool.
And I hope that's not too long-winded of an answer.
No, not at all. So I guess when you're not out performing and writing and playing music, I get what's kind of your thing? What do you like to do other than music? You know, I mean.
I don't know, man. You know, Nietzsche says, you know, music is the only true art. And,
sure.
You know, I love a lot of things, man. I love it all. Drawing, sketching, painting, sculpting, all kinds of martial arts and just spirituality and, you know, how to breathe, you know, and how to get in tune with the universe and all the energy around us, all that stuff.
Right.
That's always been a big part of me. And, you know, as a young lad, you know, sort of discovering different ways people have interpreted the universe and spirituality and all the different cultures all over the world, and, you know, learning about that stuff. I really loved, you know, learning about all kinds of religions and cultures and the way people have viewed things. And, you know, so that's kind of been a thing of mine for my whole life, really. But hey, man, I also do a lot of things. If it wasn't this music business stuff, yeah, I went to school for electrical engineering, man. I've got an EE degree that I've never used, but I just enjoy physics. I enjoy physics. I enjoy complicated mathematical problems, solving, and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I'm kind of like, I don't know what you'd call it, like a hippie Renaissance guy. You know,
yeah.
I like to dabble in a lot of stuff.
Sure. Cool. Anything you're working on right now?
Well, no. I mean, right now, Doug and I are focusing on getting these acoustic treatments of the songs on the Face the Music album together, because we've got the full month of April, we've got a European acoustic duo tour with the Burning Rain brand new material. So we're working on that, and that's a lot of fun because we both love the acoustic format. We don't get to do it, and especially with these new songs we crafted, which are now coming to fruition and going to hit everybody's ears. We're going to be able to actually give them, you know, these people who probably listen to the record, they'll actually hear some new ear candy when we play this stuff live, because by and large you have to do some different treatments on this stuff to make it work, you know, for two guys with acoustics. So that's a lot of fun. I love it. I've always loved that format, and Doug has too.
Yeah.
We're working on that. You know, we'll be in Europe all April. We'll end at the Frontiers Rock Festival in Milan, Italy on the 28th.
It's not a bad place.
I bounce back over to the States because I've got to do M3 the weekend of May 2nd and 3rd with Kingdom Come.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And that'll be a fun gig. I think we have Whitesnake on the same day of the bill as us and a couple other biggies, which will, you know, it'll just be fun. And it'll be fun for the Kingdom Come guys too, because we haven't been on a festival date like this yet. We just kind of were ramping up to it back in the fall, playing more clubs and small theaters. But now, you know, these guys were kind of known for being on the early Monsters of Rock tour back in whenever that was, 88, 89, you know, with all those big bands that played on it. So it'll be kind of like the first time they're getting back into on a stage like that. So that'll be interesting and fun. But really, I mean, the Burning Rain thing, that's my baby and Doug's baby, and that's our thing, man. We'll be pounding the pavement hard this year and trying to bring it to a town near you.
Yeah,
pretty much all over the world.
That sounds awesome. Like I said before, I'm loving this record. It sounds terrific. And thanks a lot for your time, man.
Thanks so much, Brother Joe, and look forward to talking again sometime. And rock be with you.
All right, sounds good. Same to you.